I'm going to show how to make this bad scanner effect using Affinity's procedural texture filter. I got the idea for this effect from Doran's Studio. I'll put a link to his channel in the description for this video. This effect is used to make a document look like it was copied on a broken copier or scanned on a bad scanner. This is pretty easy to do with the procedural texture filter. To make the scanner effect, I'm going to start with a series of horizontal and vertical lines. I'm going to actually have two sets of those, one at high frequency and one at low frequency. And then I'm going to mix in some noise to give it this sort of reticulated effect here. I'm going to work with this document, which is a picture of a church. I sort of quantized this, each color channel, and then applied a gradient map to it, then added some text over the top. Not going to show how to do that, but I'm going to show how to do a scanner effect. So I'm going to start by adding a new pixel layer over the top of my graphic here. I'll choose black, and then I'll fill this with black. Choose the Move tool, and I'm going to add a live procedural texture filter. I'm going to add a single equation and assign it to the red, green, and blue channels. For this equation, I'm going to make it noiseh, and so that will be the harmonic noise. It's going to go positive and negative, and this will also have a linear interpolation, so it's connecting things with a straight line. And I'll just use, the first one will be in the y direction, so ry times, I'm going to have a scaling factor. I'm going to call this A1 because I'm going to have multiple scaling factors. And since it's in the y direction, I'm going to divide by the height of the document. I'm going to add a real number input, and I'll label that as A1, and this will be horizontal scale. Okay, so those are my horizontal lines. And I'll bring this up so I have quite a few of them. So right now I just have a series of lines. Now I don't want it quite like that. So I want to do some more stuff to this. And what I'm going to do is to quantize this. And I'm going to use the smooth quantize, SC, which is the S-curve quantize function. And I'm going to, that takes two additional parameters. The first one, I'm going to call it 1 over C1. C1 is the number of layers it'll generate. S1 will be how smooth those layers are. So I'll show how those work in a second here. So I need to add a real number input for C1 and a 0 to 1 slider for S1. So I'll add those. So this will be C1 and this will be S1. And so as I bring this up, if I bring this up real high, it'll go back to the original. Right now I have the smooth all the way up. If I bring that all the way down and bring this down, okay, so there's a few lines, and then I'm going to bring this down, and so there's a few horizontal lines like that. Now, these edges can be rather sharp, so I'm going to bring this up. That will just smooth off those edges a little bit. Okay, so those are my first set of scan lines. And I want to set this up as a variable now, so I'm going to turn this into a variable, var_t1 equals that. Now I'm going to copy and paste this whole variable right next to it. And I'll add a semicolon and then paste it right here. And I'm going to change the 1s to 2s. 2, 2, and 2. And I'll change the ry to an rx. And I'll change this one to a 2 as well. And I'll change the h to a w. So it'll be the width of the document in pixels. And now I need to add my new custom inputs, and so there's 2 real value inputs and 1 0 to 1 range inputs. This will be A2, this will be C2, and this will be S2. I'll label this one vertical scale, vertical quant, and vertical smooth. I'll set this to 30, this to 3, and just bring this down about here. So they're my vertical lines. I'm going to copy both of these and paste them again. So I'll have a set of high frequency lines and a set of low frequency lines. And I'm not going to label them in particular, I'll just make a copy of all of this. I'll change all my 1s to 3s now, and I'll change the 2s to 4s. All right? And for custom inputs, I'm going to have 2 reals and a 0 to 1, 2 reals and a 0 to 1. This will be A3, this is C3, and this is S3. We've got an A4, a C4, and an S4. And I'll add labels to all of these. I'll set these to some starting values, and I'll adjust those later. Just bring these down a little bit. Now I want to create some noise. I'm going to add 2 different types of noise. I'm going to use Perlin noise to create sort of a granular effect, and then I'm going to use just regular high frequency noise for an overall noise effect. I'll start with the Perlin noise, and for that I'll set up another variable that will be variable T5, and that's equal to perlinhcubic. And I'm going to use vec2, a 2-element vector, rx and ry, times A5 divided by W, 10 octaves, and S5 will be the smoothing factor. And so I need to add an A5 as a real input, and then an S5 as a 0 to 1 slider. Set this up to, I'm going to start with this at 300. So, and then if I bring this down, it should make a nice grainy structure. Now I want this to be both positive and negative, so I'm going to actually change it to perlinhcubic, because I'm going to be adding all of these to a base offset value. Okay, so now it goes positive and negative, and if you zoom in you can see it's sort of a nice reticulated effect, and you can add more noise like that. This will be Perlin scale and Perlin smooth. Now last one is just the an overall noise effect. And so I'm going to use variable T6, and that's equal to noise hi, so it'll be harmonic, it goes positive and negative, and then every pixel will be a different noise value, so I'll just use X and Y for this one. Okay, and so if I look at that, just completely random numbers, every pixel is different. Okay, now I'm going to set up a mix for all of these, and so I'm going to have I1 times T1 plus I2 times T2 plus I3 times T3 plus I4 times T4 plus I5 times T5 plus I6 times T6. And then I'm going to add in 0 to 1 range inputs for the 6 textures, and then a -1 to 1 for the offset. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then one of these. So that will be I1, I2, I3, I4, I5, and I6. And this one I'm going to call OF for offset. So I'll add on the OF for the offset. And I'll just bring this over to about 50%. And I'm going to bring the noise all the way down, and I'm going to bring the granular all the way down, and then I'll bring these others down as well. So everything is turned off. And I just have a nice gray background. I'll label all these so I can keep track of them. This is horizontal 1, vertical 1, horizontal 2, vertical 2. I'm going to call this grain because it's sort of the granular effect or reticulation, and then this one I'll call noise, and this one is just the offset. Now I've got my offset set to a middle gray, and then I'm going to bring each of these up a little bit. So I'm going to start with this one, and instead of having it be a high frequency amount, I'm going to have this be a low frequency, like 2 or 3. Let's try that, and then I'm just going to make a little window on here. Now if I bring the smoothness down, you can see nice sharp lines. If I don't want those lines, I can bring this up a little bit, and then this will give me more stripes, but I'll just leave it at 3. So that's pretty good. Then I want to bring in some of the vertical, bring that in just a little bit, and I'm going to do the same thing with that one. And I'm just going to look around, see if I can find a good spot here. I'm just going to take this spot, it's sort of a little bit brighter step there, and I'm going to smooth this out a lot like that, and I'm actually going to add about 30 quantum steps. So this mostly looks like a crease down the middle of the paper. I'll try that. Then I'm going to bring in the horizontal 2, so this will be a higher frequency, and this is going to be like, you know, as it's going through, it's sort of jamming through the printer. I'll set that to 3 and smooth off the edges a little bit. So maybe it got sort of folded as it was coming through. Next will be the vertical, and so I'm going to set this up to quite a few. I have it set to 40, I'll do 60. Now I want to add in a little bit of granular noise, and if I bring this all the way up, you can see it sort of washes everything out, so I just want to add enough of this so I can see it, and then I'm going to zoom in and add just a little bit of the high frequency noise. Maybe just a little bit of that so it's there. Okay, so that's the basic effect. And now to apply this to my picture, instead of normal, I'm going to choose hard light for this one. Okay, so there it is. It looks like it's been run on a bad scanner. Now, these lines are very straight, and I would like to have, you know, show a little variation in these, and so I'm going to do that. I'm going to make a copy of this, duplicate it, bring it down underneath that other group. I'll just turn this off for now. Now to this group I'm going to add a live filter, and I'm going to use the Displace filter. Now down here on this procedural texture filter, I want to turn off the noise, and I could really turn off the grain. I'm going to bring the grain down quite a bit. Alright, so now on this Displace filter, I'm going to load map layers from underneath and take a look at that, and maybe make them even a little more pronounced. Okay, so that's probably too much, and so just like that. I think I'll do it like that. Now, when I turn on this layer, these should line up with where, you know, the paper got sort of folded. It sort of lines up with that, makes it look like the paper got sort of crunched in the printer. Now this hard light effect might be too much. If it is, you can turn it down. I'm just going to bring it all the way down to 0 and then gradually bring it back in until, you know, I have just as much grunge as I want. I could have just a little bit or a lot. I'm going to just go for a lot for this one. Some variations you could try with this would be to take out the quantize. You could try changing the noise, try to a different type of quantize, or use different types of oscillators maybe in place of that. So let me know if you come up with anything cool, and thanks for watching my video.